Welcome back to the Ed Block CourageCast live from Radio Row. I'm Dave Somwettle, and this is another Nirvana moment as a Raven fan for me growing up. Getting to talk to the one and only legendary Super Bowl winning head coach of the Baltimore Ravens, Brian Billick. And Brian, I'm a high school football coach, and I'm looking right now at shoulder pads. I want to get right into these shoulder pads you have with us.
This is what our players need to be in. Better than 90% of the pro players are in the X-Tech pads. All the major colleges, all the major high schools, obviously. The thing I'm excited about is we're actually getting down to the youth pad now as well. Been doing this for 13 years. It's the forefront of technology in terms of the pad. Like everything we do, technology has been able to enhance what we do. You know, in the old days, my day, it was the big guys wore big pads, the little guys wore little pads. Right now, we've got 13 years and AI-driven. These pads are basically form-fitted based on your height, your weight, your playing position, your injury history. It's the best way to protect our players in the game that we all love, that we also know is very physical, very violent, and you got to take care of it. You got to take the head out of the game.
Yeah.
Well, it puts more pressure on. Obviously, the pads have got to be the best. This is the best pad on the market. Fans need to check this out, particularly the youth pad. I got a 12-year-old and a 9-year-old grandson, and they're in X-Tech pads because it's the best way to keep them protected.
Coach Billick, so good to be here with
Yes,
you
sir.
again.
Good to see you.
I remember when I got drafted to the Vikings as a young player in '96, and John Randall
Yeah.
took my shoulder pads and he cut them up, and he took everything out of them until it was just a shell, and then he took my thigh pads till it was just a little plastic insert that went between it. Took my knee pads, and he said, "Nah, we play butt naked. That's the only way you can be."
Sure.
Playing with guys, seeing guys like Johnny who used to play with almost nothing at all.
Right.
How has this
What a great
evolved the
mentor.
game and been able to show you, like,
Just
man,
that, because the
possibilities?
technology allows you, as everything in technologically now, to isolate it down to where you need it.
Right.
You know, before it was just a cumbersome big pad. The helmets used to be the same way, but now they're isolating it. What was the most efficient and effective way to protect what you need to protect? Whether it's the louvers, whether it's the epaulets on the side, whether it's the padding, the XRD foam, the technology that's advanced that we have underneath it, the underpinnings of it. It's just more of a form-fitted pad, because the pad you should be wearing is different than the pad that I would be wearing in terms of what we did and how we're going to do it.
So, no, I know you had to give up your boat and move to Ohio.
Oh, boy.
Tell us about that life, because I remember I went to a tournament with you and you were loving your boat.
Loved life on the Chesapeake. We were out on the Wye River. We were there for 10 years. My wife and I loved doing boating up and down the coast from Nantucket to Martha's Vineyard to Newport and all around the Chesapeake Bay. But 4 years ago, my wife said, "I'm moving next to the grandkids. What are you doing?"
The things you have to give up.
I guess I'm moving to Columbus, Ohio. I missed the boating, but I've taken up golf and now become addicted to golf. So I found another outlet for it, and doing great.
Coach Billick, Dwayne Brooks,
Yeah,
athletic
Dwayne.
trainer here. Do you have a favorite athletic trainer as a coach that you dealt with?
Oh, God, I was so fortunate. Bill Tessendorf in
right.
Baltimore was the absolute best. We had a great group in Minnesota as well. Chuck Barta, was it?
Chuck Barta, right.
Chuck was a great young at the time,
Right.
coming in. Now he's gotten older like all of us.
Yeah.
But huge. I mean, and it's great. I know the Hall of Fame is now entering trainers
Exactly.
into the Hall of Fame, and it's so well deserved, because those guys, such a huge impact on the game. And as you know, the players just they're the ones that allow them to play this game as long and last as long as they did. But Tess was, I always used it. Tess would always come in and come into my office every day and give me a report on the players. And Bill would come in and goes, "Well, Ed's got a bilateral I go, "Ankle." Okay. And so-and-so, he's got the bi with the tring, and I go, "What's that?" "Shoulder." "Okay, great."
You didn't study kinesiology?
Oh boy, no! And I said, "Bill, you got to dumb this down for the coaches. Just what are we talking about and how long?" So Bill was the best.
As a coach, how does that work? Like, how much do you end up becoming a medical professional by
Well,
default?
you don't. You certainly develop an appreciation for the demands of the game on the players, and that fine balance. And you have to rely on the professionals like Bill about where's that line, because there's no doctor in front of my name.
Right.
That between, can this guy play or not? Should he continue? Should he play this week or not? because, as you know, everybody's hurt.
Yes.
But are you injured?
Yes.
And that difference between, well, is he just hurt and hurting, or is he injured? Should he not be back on? But because you got to get him back on the field, and that fine line in making those determinations, and you rely on the professionals because you as a coach, you're not qualified to make that call.
Absolutely.
What was it like coaching all the big personalities? You had our esteemed friend here, John Randall, Minnesota.
We had
Chris
some
Carter,
personalities, didn't
Randy
we?
Moss. They go
Chris
to Baltimore,
Carter.
and you get Shannon Sharp and Ray Lewis and Jamie Sharper and all those guys. What was it like managing those big personalities?
I always said, in that Super Bowl team, we had some characters. But I always like to say, but we also had character.
Yes.
And all those guys had, to a man, great character. And that was important because they're your team leaders.
Yes.
And you've got to have that if you're going to be successful, beyond just obviously the talent. But the personalities, the key is you have to embrace it. You have to let it breathe. You have to let them embrace their passion. You have to show them that it has to be within the team environment. It can't be inwardly focused. And as long as they got that, as long as they understood, okay, I'm going to be me, but I'm going to be me within the context of my team and my teammates, then you got something going. And so you basically have to mentor them to show them that, yeah, I want all of that passion you have, but it has to fit within the respect for your teammates.
As a leader, sitting in that locker room, I believe at one point you had Randall Cunningham, Dante Culpepper, Chris Carter, Randy Moss, Randall McDaniel, Matt Burke. You had all of these Hall of Famers and potential Hall of Famers all in one room with all these personalities. Robert Smith, and everybody was so talented. Leroy Horde. That ball was like the holy grail. How did you manage that as offensive coordinator, trying to get all those guys the ball?
Particularly that 98 year, where we had such dynamic talent. As you said, Randy Moss, Chris Carter, Andrew Glover, Jake Reed, Robert Smith, and Leroy Horde. All these guys had tremendous success, but what they bought into and made that year and group so special was that they bought into, if we spread the ball around, everybody gets a share, that's how we're going to do our best. Nobody wants the ball more than Chris Carter.
Absolutely.
Right? And not even from a selfish standpoint because of what I can do with it.
Right.
But he also recognized, but how good are we going to be that we now can get Randy involved or hand the ball off to, and they saw and grew that as this guy does better, that opens up a window for me. You can't double me anymore because you got to put the eighth guy in the box to stop Robert Smith, or you got to double Randy, and vice versa. So that's what made that group so special, is they gave themselves over to the process, still embracing their passion for the game and recognizing as a team we're going to be better than what I can deliver individually.
All right, I want to talk a little bit about this matchup because DC's been waving his Chiefs ring at us ever since we got down here.
Hell yeah.
When you look at this Kansas City Chiefs team, does it feel like they've morphed year after year into something new? And what makes this team, because you look at this team on paper and you say, they shouldn't be doing this because they don't have, quote-unquote, the talent. What makes them so special this year?
They have the pedigree, and Andy Reid's done a phenomenal job. You're right. This is a team that, for all that we know and appreciate of Kansas City and the high-flying and Patrick Mahomes, who is obviously spectacularly unique in what he can do, this team is what? Built on great defense and running the ball. And that element that Patrick Mahomes brings to them. And they've morphed to that. That wasn't what they were. But they've bought into that now, and they recognize, and because that's where the talent led them. It's not like Andy Reid decided, okay, we're going to change and become this team. But as they acquired talent, that each team takes on a personality, and it was, okay, this is what we are, this is our strength, so this is how we're going to win. And the fact that they adapted to that and embrace that is, and now with the pedigree that, oh yeah, by the way, we know how to win. So if in crunch time, this is how we have to do it, then this is the way we'll do it, because we do know how to win.
Awesome. So I know this is a very painful subject for me and probably for you. Going into that AFC Championship where Gary Anderson missed that kick, I know my own personal feelings on it, but I've never had a chance to ask you what your personal feelings were in that moment.
Tough.
To actually have the only kick that mattered go wide left.
And it just shows you the fate of football. Gary is the NFC Championship. Gary had not missed all year long. I remember positioning us to get the field goal, because we get the field goal, the game's over. Yeah. Turning and walking, getting Gatorade. We're going to the Super Bowl. We're done. And then hear the stadium groan. And I live in Minnesota in the summers now, up near Lake Vermilion, and so Viking fans are all around, and the pain of that still lingers.
Resonates.
That's a tough one. That's a tough one.
Well, Coach Billick, this has been an absolute pleasure to have you take some time with us. Where can we learn more about?
Go to xtechpads.com or Instagram @xtechpads. This is the pads our young people need to be in. This is in a great game, but we need to protect them. Xtech Pads.
All right.
All right, guys.
More in a minute.
Thank you.